So, imagine this. You've just built the most powerful artificial mind in human history. You've trained it on literally the entire internet. You taught it to reason, to write, to think. You poured billions of dollars into it and billions more into the massive, sprawling server farms required just to run it. And then you realize something genuinely terrifying.
You realize that this whole thing, all of that incredible innovation, depends entirely on one company, one specific product line, one single chip. And that company, they can cut you off anytime, anywhere. This is the story of how the most powerful tech giants in the world effectively handed control of the AI revolution to a single semiconductor company, and what happens now that they've realized exactly how dangerous that is.
Hello guys, welcome back to my channel TechLore YT, and in today's video we are going to learn about the dangerous problem every AI company is facing.
Section 1, the resource war begins. Okay, let's dive into this. To really understand this massive vulnerability, we have to look back at the exact moment this unprecedented global resource war kicked off. Because we're not talking about a war over oil or lithium here. This is a war over pure computing power.
Now take a look at the vertical adoption curve of ChatGPT. OpenAI launched it on November 30th, 2022. Within just 5 days, it hit 1 million users. In 2 months, 100 million. That is an adoption curve unlike anything we have ever seen in consumer history. But behind that crazy viral moment, it instantly triggered a massive, desperate demand for highly specific hardware. Because, as you probably know, building an AI doesn't just take clever code, it requires massive amounts of physical chips.
And this brilliantly illustrates the fundamental difference in the hardware we're talking about. Think of a standard computer chip, a CPU, like a single world-class sprinter. It's incredibly fast in a straight line, doing one complex task at a time. But training an AI, that requires doing billions of tiny calculations simultaneously. You don't need a single sprinter, you need 100,000 runners all moving at once. That is exactly the massive parallel processing power that a GPU, or graphics processing unit, gives you. Section 2, the NVIDIA monopoly. Which brings us to the core of the problem. When ChatGPT proved to the world that AI was the future, every major company on the planet suddenly wanted these GPUs, all at once, in quantities that literally didn't exist. And there was exactly one company perfectly positioned to supply them, a gaming graphics company founded back in 1993. Yep, we're talking about NVIDIA. They spent decades figuring out how to make video games look incredibly beautiful, but it turned out that same parallel processing power was insanely good at training neural networks. They pivoted hard into AI chips, specifically the A100 and the H100. By 2023, a single NVIDIA H100 chip cost a staggering $40,000. Just one. A full rack of them costs hundreds of millions. Yet, tech companies were still buying them by the tens of thousands without a second of hesitation. Which leads us to a terrifying reality. As you can see here, NVIDIA holds an estimated 70 to 95% of the AI chip market share. They hover around 85% on average. Guys, that isn't just a strong market position, that is an absolute monopoly. It makes NVIDIA a massive single point of failure for the entire industry. If they raise prices, everyone pays. If they have supply chain hiccups, the whole world waits. I mean, just look at this quote from Sam Altman. He publicly stated, "The constraint is not money. The constraint is the chips." This is the CEO of OpenAI, the most well-funded AI lab in the entire world, publicly admitting with total gravity that even they simply could not get their hands on enough hardware. The demand is just unprecedented right now. You've got Meta ordering 350,000 H100 chips in a single year. You've got Elon Musk's xAI building a massive 100,000 chip cluster in just under 100 days. These tech giants are battling so fiercely to secure this supply that it actually pushed NVIDIA's market cap past $2 trillion, briefly making them the single most valuable company on Earth in June 2024. Section 3, the Great Hardware Race. Because listen, these tech giants aren't just sitting around waiting in line anymore. They are building desperate, multi-billion-dollar escape routes to break free from this absolute dependency. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that it shows the real war isn't actually about algorithms anymore. The true battlefield is in custom silicon. Google is moving heavily into its next-generation Trillium processors. Amazon is aggressively pushing its Trainium chips so it can win as both a chipmaker and a cloud provider. Meta is building out massive custom data centers for its MTIA chips. And Microsoft, they're heavily investing in their own new Maya 200 chips. Everyone is desperately trying to build their own hardware. And to put that into perspective, The scale of the spending is difficult to even comprehend. $80 billion. That is Microsoft's jaw-dropping AI infrastructure spend for 2024 alone, a single-year hardware budget that is literally higher than the gross domestic product of many entire nations. But the most audacious move by far might belong to OpenAI with their massive initiative dubbed Project Titan. Sam Altman reportedly began exploring plans to raise up to $7 trillion. Yes, trillion with a T. His ambition isn't just to buy more chips, he wants to completely bypass the bottleneck by building entirely new semiconductor factories from the ground up. It really just goes to show that even a purely software-based company realizes hardware is the ultimate battleground.
And we're seeing external challengers stepping into the ring too. AMD's MI300 series is starting to genuinely threaten NVIDIA in certain specific workloads. You've got Intel pushing their Gaudi line, plus you have startups coming out of nowhere with radically different architectures, like Cerebras and Grok. It's a massive race. And the crazy part, it's happening while entire nations are stepping in and treating semiconductor manufacturing as a matter of pure national security.
Section 4. A civilizational vulnerability. This brings us to a really critical shift in how technology works today. This hardware bottleneck marks the brutal end of the software era, and it introduces some incredibly dangerous physical and geopolitical limits. Let's contrast these two eras. In the early days of the internet, the software era had incredibly low physical constraints. A startup in a literal garage could compete with a massive corporation. But the AI era? Yeah, you absolutely cannot train a frontier model on a laptop. It requires billions in infrastructure and incredibly complex continent-spanning supply chains. Because the cost of entry is now measured in the billions, power is concentrating incredibly fast. And that massive concentration of physical power, it creates serious geopolitical fractures. The US government placed massive export restrictions on advanced AI chips to China, which actually forced NVIDIA to create watered-down custom chips, the A800 and H800, just to comply with the law. In response, we're seeing retaliatory actions like Huawei accelerating its own Ascend chip program. This proves the AI hardware supply chain is no longer just a tech story. It is a massive geopolitical reality. So the crucial point is captured perfectly in this ominous operating assumption floating around the industry right now. Whoever controls the compute controls the future of AI. And whoever controls the future of AI may well control the future. These megacorporations aren't building their own custom hardware because it's slightly more efficient. They are building it entirely out of fear of being cut off. Section 5. The future of power. As we look forward, we have to understand that this hardware dependency is fundamentally different and much, much stickier than software ecosystems we've seen in the past, like Apple's App Store or Amazon's Marketplace. You can't just pivot your massive physical infrastructure over a long weekend. And the company at the center of all this isn't exactly resting on its laurels either. NVIDIA's 2024 Blackwell architecture represents their next massive generational leap. They know competition is finally arriving, so their defense strategy is to push the boundaries so incredibly far ahead that their competitors feel catching up is just entirely pointless. Which leaves us with one massive lingering question. Who will control the hardware that runs the future? Right now, at this exact moment, the systems that are beginning to completely reshape medicine, science, education, and warfare are all running on chips from a single company that was founded in a Denny's restaurant in 1993. The next chapter of human history will be written in silicon. That's it for today, and subscribe to my channel to get more videos like this. And also, drop a suggestion in the comments section about what documentary I should make next.